Well, good afternoon. This is Raymond Hall with the Raymond Hall Show, and we want to thank you for your patience and being patient with us. We're just starting just a few minutes late today. We're joined here in the studio with Miss Murphy from African American Families Too, and of course to my right we have Miss Errecca Flynn Walker here, kind of the cornerstone of the whole place. We're here broadcasting in Morris Media Studios, located in the historic Lamert Park. We want to take the time to remember our dear friend and a friend to the nation, Mr. Dick Gregory. We're going to pay a larger tribute to him a little bit later on, but we want to start by giving our condolences to all of those persons that are suffering through Hurricane Harvey.
Yeah. Yes, we do.
Okay,
yes, we do.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. And we do want to give our condolences personally from myself and the family here at Morris Media, as well as the Raymond Hall Show, to Mr. Dick Gregory and his family.
Yeah. We have a guest that's going to join us shortly, Miss Kate Hutton. Mm-hmm. And she's with the Emergency Preparedness Center for the City of Los Angeles.
Yes.
And she's quite accomplished and she has quite a responsibility. So we're going to get to that when she gets online with us. You know, when I first heard about the hurricane, we have so many things that happen. You know, in just one part of the country or another. If it's not fires, it's floods or something like that. So when we were talking, when Mrs. Walker and I was talking in preparation for the show, she asked something that kind of shut the whole conversation down. She says, well, when we have a disaster here, what do we do?
Right, that part.
Yeah, that part.
That part
you,
right there.
You think you know everything. You know, you read, okay, well, I got an answer for this, I got an answer. And, you know, it's interesting because when you know you have a question when the room goes quiet.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And when that question was asked was, well, what do you do? Mm-hmm. It kind of went quiet because nobody did it. So we framed it in the terms of, how do I stay safe? Mm-hmm. How do I help my neighbor? Mm-hmm. And how do I communicate even to emergency responders? Okay. So those are the things we're going to be talking about today in this section. There's so much devastation down there in Houston.
Yeah. I think close to 100,000 homes are, maybe out of order. So praying for those people, those families.
Yeah. And it's absolutely a way that we're seeing, though, which is what I was reading on the internet, that people are really coming together and they're showing each other camaraderie. And although they're not a family, this is what brings us all together as Americans. We unify in the midst of crisis. And it's so unfortunate that it has to come to something like this, which is a natural disaster, Mother Nature.
Yeah.
But, we know that we're going to get through it, and we all hope for the best and pray for the people there in Houston right now that's been devastated.
Well, there are some things that caught my attention, and prayer is in that place where faith is and where hope is.
Yes.
And not everyone is going to hold to those things. We are built. I stand on the fact that if it wasn't for God's grace and mercy, I wouldn't even be here. And I don't have any reservations on saying that. But I noticed even in the midst of the horrific tragedy that there was conversations that were just distracting.
Well, we don't want to be distracted any more than we already have been. We want to come together to help in any form or fashion that we can, and it's awesome to see so many people coming out and supporting all of the families in need right now at this time. The Red Cross and
okay.
And a lot of organizations that are coming out there donating money to this effort. And what we want to do is just continue to keep them lifted up in prayer and do our part.
Well, if you have a spirit of service to give, then by all means give and donate. I am very concerned that the support mechanism that was specifically put in place by the previous administration, it's ironic that it was rescinded a week before this happened.
Right.
You know, that's what I'm talking about a distraction. I'm not talking about people not running around. You have to speak to those things.
Yes, you do.
See, we're talking to you here at the Raymond Hall Show. This our motto. You know our motto. It's a different conversation. And sometimes conversations that are difficult are not the conversations that people readily run to. Mm-hmm. Okay, there's a place where it talks about this seed fell on ground and the birds came and ate it, and then some seed fell on rocky ground and it sprung up and fell back down, and then some seed fell on good ground. Well, I'll give you something just for digest. The seed that fell on good ground is just seed, or the person of us or the times of us that has been tested. Mm-hmm. And see, at first when we're not paying attention, that's that sound, that's that ground, that's not good ground. It has it's never been tested. You're not paying attention, and it's just something that's just going to be there until something else is be there.
And something interesting that I saw was somebody said the people who will suffer most in this hurricane are people who didn't vote for this current administration.
Well, that's foolishness. That's foolishness. I think the Creator, however you believe, whether you believe in you're Zenist or Buddhist or whatever it is, that's foolishness. Okay. Let's go back to the preamble.
Okay. We the people.
We the people. Let's go back to that door. That's what I'm saying is foolishness. If the Creator is able to put it in someone to create a document, and they who create the document themselves own slaves, and then years pass when the descendants of the people that they own are able to say and prove that that document counts to me in too. So, you had people who are looking through the same door, the door of the Constitution, to say, I belong, I have a right too. Right. So someone coming into office does not negate the preamble of the Constitution. That's why I say it's foolishness. Right. Now, you got everything going on from, I'm not going to even begin. Some people will run over somebody and keep going because they don't want to stop and admit that they were wrong. Okay? Right. So they'll find any reason in the world to say, the reason we had this storm is because that's foolishness.
Right. Because natural disasters are a part of the world we live in. They happen at any time. Right. Some disasters, such as Hurricane Harvey, are predictable, and isn't it really, really incredible how the meteorologists, people can look at the weather based on, today and things that have happened in the past and predict that they don't know the severity, but they know that something is coming.
Right. And it's interesting you should say that because they know it's coming, but they just don't know how many people it's going to affect.
They didn't.
They didn't know how many people. This. I dare say, you really can't compare Katrina to Harvey because Katrina just had us all going to that very special place and just dealing with our own consciousness. Right. Here in America with Katrina, when I saw that sister in that wheelchair that had passed on and they had a sign on her neck that said, just please bury my mom. And we're here in America.
That's so deep.
I thought of days when I was in service, and and I thought of neighbors, and I thought of people who, what did this lady do? Did she cook peach cobblers? Did she, what was her life about? And we here, this is
And that's the thing about natural disasters is it affects people of lower social economical status disproportionately. It's a disparity there. So if you don't have the money to
Get out because they
get
give-
out
right.
and evacuate or fill your tank up or
exactly.
go and stock up at the store, or you kind of get your kids together and get everybody out, and it's 2 million people trying to leave the city at one time, and that's what I mean when it kind of affects people disproportionately.
Right.
And I think the only thing that we can do as in our communities, this is what we're doing at HAF is our latest project is SOS, which is Save Ourselves. So
Now,
You
you
know-
all just initiated a project
Yes.
at African American. Tell us about this.
yeah, so we actually just wrote a grant for disaster preparedness because in California the imminent threat is an earthquake.
Earthquake,
It's
right.
earthquake.
We haven't had a major earthquake in 300 years. We're 150 years overdue.
Well, hold on.
Wait a minute, we had an earthquake now. We
A
had
major-
Okay.
How many?
The big earthquake that constitutes like a major, 7 point and up.
Okay, 7 point
it's
and
been
up.
over 300 years.
Over
Since
300
we've had
years.
it in California.
Wow,
I was in the one in
Northridge?
In Northridge.
Right.
So I'm glad you have made a note that wasn't major.
right.
The
It was major to
scale,
you.
because we just had Earl Massey. He was a survivor of the Great Alaskan Earthquake, so he's
Right.
coming and partnering with us on this grant. But he was telling us that these are the stats, and we about 150 years overdue for the big one.
Okay.
That's going to be devastating,
Wow.
and they're predicting it's going to come anytime. And the best thing, and especially in Spot 6, which is where we are,
Right.
they're going to take about 2 weeks to get to us, and that's a good projection.
what-
And we can have Miss
Hutton, right.
fact check us on that, but
Well, I'm not so much concerned with the fact check. I remember I actually lived in Newhall, which was very close to the 14th freeway, and I never will forget that officer that he was on the motorcycle, and he just went right off of that 14 freeway, and I never experienced anything like that in my life, where
Right.
the earth is moving up and down and sideways at the same place.
right.
You had large items that were strewn across the floor, but something as light as a glass just sat right there where it was. It was the most interesting thing it was.
Right, an earthquake is something you can't see it. It's like the wind. You know it's there. You don't know where it came from, when it's leaving, but it is there and it's ever present.
It sounded like to me. It sounded like a big train coming.
Right.
Okay, it sounded like.
But you couldn't really see where it was coming from, but you knew that
I was
it was
trying
there.
to get out of the way. It sounded like a
Yeah,
big
that's all you
train
can do in an
coming.
earthquake.
And
Right. So that's one
Get
thing
under
that
some.
we have to ask Ms. Hutton, like pretty much what type of preparedness are we? So earthquake is one thing, flood is another. Is that two different types of preparedness that we need to have?
Well,
These are
I've been in certain training sessions where it seems to be sometimes it boils down to there are
Basics.
some common things.
Okay, common
Make
things.
sure you have plenty of water.
Okay.
Make sure that you have flashlights and
Right.
things like that. I'm a little concerned when they start cutting back services.
Yeah.
They have all of these specialized services, but when you don't, I remember with the neighborhood councils through the city, they had emergency preparedness and had training for ham
Right,
operators and things like that. So, with the earthquake, you have to be prepared to really shelter in place.
Yeah, and you got to be prepared for those phone lines to go down.
Right.
You might not be able to get to the bank. Do you
Right.
have cash?
Right.
Do you have,
That was
We
a
all
big
should
issue.
we all should have
Yeah.
cash at
Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
We all
Yeah.
should have our medications that we may take on hand. We should have, in my opinion, earthquake preparedness in our car because a
Yeah.
lot of us spend a lot of time in our car. Like just some type of backpack with a comfortable pair of
Right.
shoes,
Yeah.
some water, your medicine. Like Mr. Hall said, some basic things. So that's what we hope and that
and-
Ms. Hutton will be giving us.
And you can't drive. I think people need to think about that because
You
the
can't
ground
drive.
is,
Right.
is all messed up. So if it takes you 20 minutes to get home driving, now you got to walk.
Yeah.
Right.
Do
so
you have
that's
a
why
plan with
to
your
be
family
prepared.
members? How are you gonna know?
Yeah, it took 2 hours to go a distance that normally takes about 10 minutes. Now, I'm going to share this that I remembered it.
Okay.
I don't know how to comment on it, but I'm just telling you what was memorable to me. There was a designated area in the new hall place that they told us all to go, and you just drove in your car and hit the button, your trunk flipped up, and you had people that loaded your trunk up and you went on.
What did they load your truck with?
Food,
Okay.
water, blankets, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And I had business that brought me into L.A., so I took the train. And to my amazement, it was people lined up after line up after line up. It looked like those lines just went blocks. And the train is passing by, and you saw what they were carrying after they went through the line. A block of something that looked to be cheese. I don't know what it was. I was on the train moving. But two other things was distinguishable. That was water, a gallon of water, and a blanket.
Right.
And I thought, what a big difference.
Right. What a choice we would all have to make. That's what Ms. Murphy and I were speaking about earlier. If someone said, well, you have 30 minutes before we're going to be in imminent danger, what would be the things that you would take in those 30 minutes, as far as being prepared for the atmosphere or what may await you if you're told that, you have this set amount of time and you have to go? What would be the things in preparedness that would be the most important?
Vital,
Yeah, I think one of the things that would definitely be vital would be some kind of electronic record, a thumb drive or something that had all of your medications on it and your doctor's names and numbers and what you've been diagnosed with.
Medical record is very, very important. That's something that is at the top of the list of things that will be needed.
Yeah, I don't know because I don't check folk out that deeply. But I was surprised when the VA put your dentures and everything together. They put your number, put your name and your social security number right there in your dentures.
In your who?
In your dentures.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So what do you mean
guess
put them in there?
They put them in there.
So there's a chip inside your inside.
Or it's like printed?
It's printed.
It's printed.
It's printed. It's a part of your denture. Okay. Now I don't know what they're still doing. I've been having mine for a little while.
So,
they're working on me some new ones, but they print your name right in your denture.
Inside of. Well, you know what? They know that that's a safe place, and you're always going to keep up with those.
You're gonna try anyway. Okay. Let's see if we can get Miss Hutton on the line.
Is she on the line?
She's on the line.
Hello.
All right.
Hello, I am so sorry about that.
Miss Hutton, that's okay. This is Raymond Hall, and welcome, and thank you for coming to the Raymond Hall show.
Good afternoon, Miss
We're here
Hutton.
with Miss Murphy from
Good
Healthy
afternoon.
African American Families Too,
Good
and
afternoon.
Mrs. Errecca Flynn Walker, the co-host of the show. And so welcome, and
Welcome.
thank you for taking the time to speak with us and speak with the community about emergency preparedness.
It's my pleasure. We believe that the community is really the cornerstone and a major pillar of preparedness throughout the entire region, but especially for the city of Los Angeles. So
Okay.
it's a pleasure for us to be able to talk to you guys about that. We've been having a really big push recently that, we know that the city of Los Angeles has a lot of resources to respond to and recover from disasters, but it's a big, big city, and we absolutely need our neighborhoods and our communities to be prepared to help us help LA recover, not only back to where it was, but to a better Los Angeles. So we really are excited to talk with the community about this.
Okay. Well, we are happy to have you,
Yes, we
and
are.
this is something that I know that not only the people that are listening now going to be benefited by it, but people who will be able to go and pull it up after, and also people who will embed this in some kind of training program that they may have, because that's what we are hoping people will do with the broadcast. So whatever you can tell us that would help us, we're focusing on three things. In a natural disaster, or let's just call it an emergency situation, one, how does a person basically stay safe? Number two, if possible, how do they assist their neighbor? And lastly, but equally as important, how do you communicate with emergency responders to let them know that you need assistance, you don't need assistance, there's someone that you know needs assistance worse than you? Those are the three things I think that with the time we have, if we could hear from you on, maybe would help go a long way.
Absolutely. So to your first question, how to stay safe during an emergency.
Okay.
The first thing I would tell your responders is to know what kind of hazards they face in their neighborhoods. You know, if you live on the coast, you might be more vulnerable to tsunamis than somebody who lives up in the hills and is more vulnerable to mudslides. So really know what the risks are in your neighborhood. And you can always give us a call here at the Emergency Management Department.
Okay.
Our community emergency managers, they're divided out into bureaus across the city of Los Angeles. They can help you understand what is a risk in your neighborhood and help you craft a plan around that. Another way to stay safe in an emergency is to get emergency alerts. So we have a program in the city of Los Angeles called Notify LA. And if your listeners right now text the word READY, one word, just READY, to 888-777, they're instantly logged or signed up to get emergency alerts from us. So that's READY to 888-777.
Okay.
That's one way that we can communicate with you during an emergency. You know, we see a lot during emergencies that it's sometimes you might lose power, so you might not be able to watch the news for information.
Right.
Or you might be on the go. You might be at work or driving a kid to school or anything like that when an emergency happens. They can happen without notice. So
Correct.
Your cell phone is the one thing that you're going to have with you all the time.
That's true.
So we encourage people to get those emergency alerts and leave those. I know the Amber Alerts can wake you up late at night, but that's another way that we can communicate with you. So make sure you leave those on your phone. So those are two ways to stay safe right when the emergency is happening.
Okay.
One way that you can prepare to be safer during an emergency is to have a emergency supply kit and to have a plan on how to use those kit materials and also how to connect with your family. So, you know, we encourage Angelinos to have plenty of food and water stored in their house in case you need to, you know, shelter in place for a few days during an emergency. We're very fortunate here to have pretty great weather for the most part in Los Angeles. But, you know, in a major earthquake, we might, you know, lose power and water for a few days at the very least, if not much longer. So being prepared to stay in your home and shelter in place is really important.
Okay.
And it's also important to have a plan. I think a lot of people think of a plan as like, I need to map out every escape route and everything, but really what you need to know how to do is how to reconnect with your family.
Okay.
That's going to, you know, we see a lot of stories out of Houston of families being sent to different shelters. Or maybe your kid was at home, heading home from school, and you were still at work, and then the flooding started, something like that. So knowing how to reconnect and, you know, maybe a meeting point or a designated out-of-state contact you can all call and say, hey, I'm okay, and I'm at this shelter. Thinking about how to reconnect with your family ahead of time is really, really important, and having a plan to do that.
Okay.
So once you've kind of like prepared and connected with your family, you want to maybe assist your neighbors. And we really appreciate Angelinos who want to help their neighbors out. And I think, you know, amidst all the tragedy that we're seeing out of Texas and Louisiana, the really amazing and inspiring stuff is we see that neighbors are helping neighbors.
Yes,
Correct.
And so what we want people to do is to really know their neighbors. And I think that's the basic foundation of preparedness, is knowing your neighbors. And you might already have, you know, the basic elements of a neighbor plan in place. Maybe you know that your neighbor, if you can't make it home from work in time, you know that you can call your neighbor and they'll watch your kid for you, or they'll feed your dog. You already know your neighbors probably. So maybe that one conversation with your neighbors might be, hey, if an earthquake happens and I'm not home, can you check on my house really quickly? Or, you know, maybe you have a senior citizen living next door to you and you know that you need to check in on them too. So we've learned a lot from those kind of experiences and some community planning programs we've done here, and we're developing a brand new neighborhood planning initiative that will be out at the end of this year called Ready Your LA Neighborhood.
Ready your LA neighborhood.
Ready?
Yeah, Ready Your LA Neighborhood. And what that is, it's going to be a very simple tool for families or groups of maybe 10 to 15 neighbors, you know, the people that you know right next door where you can see their house across the street. Creating a plan for your block or your neighborhood. And so if people are interested in getting that started, the full tool will be available by the end of the year, but we can get started with you and help you start to think about what you're going to want in your plan. You can just give us a call at the Emergency Management Department, and we'll connect you with your community emergency manager.
Okay.
And so that's, you know, what we really want is to have every single neighborhood in Los Angeles have a plan. It's a lofty goal, but one, you know, with shows like these where we're talking directly to the community, I think it's achievable. So what we need, though, is people to, you know, work with us and make sure that we get those plans on paper so that we can make sure that your plans are, you know, effective and are gonna, and you're thinking of everything, you know, whether you're thinking of maybe a disabled neighbor or a senior or a neighbor who has a lot of pets, something like that. And then you're, so hopefully, again, if anybody wants to get started on that process, they are welcome to call the Emergency Management Department. We're at 213-484-4800, or they can go to our website. That's emergency.lacity.org.
And what was that number again?
Yeah, it's 213-484-4800. 4800,
okay.
Or you can always, within the city of Los Angeles, call 311, and they'll connect you with us.
311. Okay, Ms. Hutton, how are you doing? My name is Errecca. I wanted to ask you a question. What would be the top 3 things that if we were experiencing an emergency would be the top 3 things that we should take or have if we decide that we're going to leave our home in the event that we have an emergency?
That's a great question. You know, everybody has those really sentimental things in their homes, whether it's a family heirloom or that china set you got for your wedding or your grandparents got. But there's some really important basic things that you should really have ready to go to grab so that you can think about those more sentimental things. So the first thing is going to be important documents. Think about birth certificates, deeds to your home, titles to cars, things like that. The kinds of things that are going to be really proving who you are and what you own after a disaster. That's critical.
That's number 1.
Yes. Number 2 is going to be medications. You know, a lot of people are on different medications, and some of them are necessary for, you know, their life safety. And so we have plans to get medications after a major disaster, but you know, things don't happen immediately, especially after a major earthquake or a flood. So we encourage people to bring their medications with them. We can get you refills, but we need you to have a few pills to get you started for those first 72 hours. And then the last thing is, you know, make sure that you have the essentials, a change of clothes, you know, your keys, a charger for your phone, just things like that where, you know, if you're evacuating or if you're heading out of your neighborhood to a shelter, things that you're going to need. If you're bringing a pet with you, make sure you bring a leash and their documents as well. Or, you know, a leash for a dog, a crate for a cat. You know your pets and what you need for them. But, you know, just think about the very basics that you're going to need. If you're out of your house, you know, we sometimes joke around and say, like, it's a lot like going camping. What are you going to bring camping? But imagine you're not going home after. Yeah. So those are the 3 most critical things, but, you know, also understand that there are things that are precious to you in your home, and if they are precious to you in your home and you want to make sure that you get them, I would have a plan for how you're going to get them quickly, because what you don't want to do is lose time. So that's why we talk about maybe having go bags, things that you can grab right away. You know where that is all the time. I personally, I have a go bag in my laundry room. It's right by my door. I know that I can grab that bag, and it has all the documents I need, copies of them. It has chargers for my phone. It has an extra pair of shoes because, you know, think about an earthquake. There's going to be a lot of debris around, and if you're wearing, you know,
high heels,
flip-flops or sandals or high heels, you're going to want those ratty old sneakers.
Shoes. Yes, you
want.
Right.
So just think about those kinds of things.
Now, one more question. Oh, you're going to ask a question?
Yes. Hi, Ms. Hutton. This is Milan Murphy. I am working at Healthy African American Families. We are a nonprofit here in Leimert Park. And we are working towards disaster efforts as well. We do a lot of community engagement, a lot of community activism. So my question is, how is the city preparing to equip communities, and how can we work together to get people prepared and get ahead of the curve?
Absolutely. So again, going back to that neighborhood planning, we'll be rolling that out by the end of the year, and that will really empower neighborhoods to design a plan that works for them.
Okay.
You know, we can't, we don't want to come into a neighborhood and say, this is what you need to do and this is how you need to run it, because you know your neighborhood much better than any, probably worker at the City of Los Angeles will. So
Right.
we understand that you are the best planner for your neighborhood. What we also do is have something called the Community Emergency Response Team. That's CERT. And the fire department runs that. And that is basically training community members in the basics of disaster first aid, search and rescue, and things that you'll need really on the ground in your community before the police and fire even get there. And so it'll teach you everything from how to set up triage to how to do a tourniquet, to even like how to work with the fire department once they arrive. So we encourage people to definitely go through that program. It's a 7-week, 7 nights over 7 weeks training. And it's run by the fire department, so you can ask a ton of questions of the fire department about emergency preparedness and response, and they are so excited to teach you guys. So that's Community Emergency Response Team. We call that CERT.
CERT.
Okay.
And you can call the Emergency Management Department, and we'll connect you with that program as well.
Very good.
Now,
Yeah.
I know that there's at the commission meetings, I'm, as I shared with you before, I'm an LA County Commissioner for Community and Senior Services. And right now they're doing a study on aging in place. And Community and Senior Services put a focus on knowing who your neighbors are. In an emergency, has there been an effort to know who, from the city side, not from some individual counties, but has there been a push to know who is in communities, or
Like the seniors, or you mean individual community people?
yeah, if you have someone that is non-ambulatory,
Right, and they're in a wheelchair, or
Right.
they're on oxygen.
right, but because normally under normal circumstances they have in-home supportive services
Right.
and access services, so the quality of their life is what it is. But in an emergency, they may not have those resources or persons to get to them. So does the city in its plan have anything that identifies, or can a senior or disabled person sign up any place with the city that lets them know that they are a disabled person?
That's a great question. So the County of Los Angeles has a program like that. And again, if you contact the City of Los Angeles, we can get you in contact with that county program. So a couple of other things that we do that are kind of interesting is in the city, we have the Department of Aging, and they
Correct.
know all of our senior centers, assisted living centers, and they have a really good feel for who's out there and where they are.
Okay.
Another angle that we use is a kind of an unexpected one, is the Department of Water and Power. A lot of people who have disabilities are on some kind of medical equipment that needs constant supply of electricity. The Department of Water and Power knows who those people are because it helps them to know what the impacts of a power outage are. So we can use that information to kind of see where people with disabilities or where people who need that immediate life-saving medical equipment are.
Yeah.
We have a few different angles to do that. The county has a much more robust registry that we have access to, but they maintain it for the full county.
Okay. Well, we're getting close to that last few minutes of the show. We want to take that to cover some of the contact information that you've given us. Now, for the let's mention again to us what the 888-777 will do. What does that do?
So if you text right now, READY, READY, to
Okay.
888-777, that will sign you up for Notify LA, and that is our emergency alert program in the City of Los Angeles. It's
Okay.
text message based, so when we need to text you with emergency information, whether that's a shelter in place or here's how to find food and water after disaster, that's how we'll be able to get in touch with you.
Okay.
Especially if there's no power or you don't have access to the internet or TV services aren't working. Those text messages we've found after disaster are the most reliable way to get to people. So, again, that's ready to 888-777.
I just did it. It came right through.
Okay. So I wanted to ask you a quick question. Is this the new emergency prepared system that we used to have in the old days when a buzz would come on and it would say, you are now tuning into the emergency broadcast system? Has that technically been changed to come to the phone now?
So they've kind of expanded that. That's a
Okay.
great question. So the ones that you hear those tests and it's that horrible buzz sound
Yes,
that you
yes.
hear, that is definitely for the TV and the radio.
Okay.
And then as cell phones began to become a thing, they said, well, we can use the cell phones too. So I'm sure you've all received one of those Amber Alerts at 12:30 in the morning.
Right.
We can use those as well. It's a slightly different program, but it's the same. It'll sound the exact same. It'll look the exact same, and in a major emergency. We're very fortunate here in LA to not have had to use that just yet. But the Notify LA, the texting in one, that's a similar program, and we can use that more easily. The really loud buzzing one, that's the federal government runs that, and we have access to it, but we have to ask permission. And so that can sometimes take, you know how it takes when you're talking to the government, it can take
Right.
time.
Take time.
So
That's a good thing to know. Thanks
Yeah.
a lot for giving us that information.
So give us the other contact information that you want to share with us, because you shared a number of things with us.
Yeah.
So give us any other telephone numbers or email addresses that you want to share with us.
So
before-
you can always call our emergency management department. Our main line is 213-484-4800. And that's our main line. That can get you connected with any of the services I mentioned today.
Okay.
Okay.
You can also go to our website, and that's just emergency.lacity.org.
Okay.
Okay. Well, Kate, we want to thank you so very
Yes,
much
it
for
was
coming
very
to the
informative.
show. We want to thank you for informing the viewing and listening audience. And I'll tell you a secret. We're looking forward to having you back again.
Yeah, we'd really like to come back when we have that neighborhood planning program
Right.
all rolled out. We'd love to come on and talk about that.
Okay.
Very good.
Well,
Thanks
thank
a lot,
you
Ms.
so
Hutton.
much. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we will look to talk to you. I want to, while you're on the phone, I want to thank Supervisor Janice Hahn there in the 4th District, because we just connected with Janice Hahn's office yesterday. And she is so receptive to helping the community. And Kate, your office is just phenomenal. You all are so receptive to helping the community that I want everyone to know this is when government is at its best, that it responds to the needs of we the people.
Of we
So
the people.
again, thank you so very much.
Thank you, Ms.
And
Hutton.
we will say goodbye to you right now, and we will talk to you a little bit later.
Have a good day.
Bye, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Very
Okay.
good.
Well, that I tell you, that was
very informative.
Very informative.
that was very informative.
Yes,
Makes you
absolutely.
feel good to know that the city is actively taking.
They're actively working right
I
now.
called the city yesterday, and I have to give some credit to the county as well, because Kate suggested, well, why don't you reach out to the county? And I went, duh, since you were part of the county.
Right.
Okay. And I talked to Mr. Guillermo Medina.
Mr. Medina.
And he works under the direction of Director Cynthia Banks, who's in charge of Community and Senior Services and the Workforce Development Services. I'm
Okay.
going to put that about it maybe. But he did said he would look out to see if he could do something, but that was literally about an hour before it was time. for
And
me
you know
to
what?
get
That
in.
was excellent that we were able to have her, because if it all could work so simply, we can place a call, say we need something, and then it shows up. And we hope that it can continue to work in that way as we move forward. To gain our information that we need to be prepared for any natural disaster we may occur
Yeah.
or incur.
We want to stop, but for a moment, and recognize the life of Mr. Dick Gregory.
Yes.
This young man was phenomenal. And I'm going to say he is phenomenal
He is.
because it's one of those things that the Word talks about, the seed. His work is still growing in other people.
Yes, it is.
From actor to activist to neighbor to friend to
Very
husband
impactful and meaningful.
to father. I mean, some of the things that he said we can't repeat on the air, but you remember.
He's
Right.
well-spoken.
Yeah,
He's very well-spoken
he said
individual
the first
and
good
articulate.
beating he got was when he was locked up. I never heard anybody appreciate a
beating.
good beating. But he said, it had me to take a look at what people are willing to pay in regard to give
To stand
service.
up, yes, and to stand up for what
And
they
that's
believe.
what the whole thing was about. He says that, you know something, I'm here but for a time, and let me make a difference in the time.
Right.
Okay, so
Right.
you all here coming to the Raymond Hall show under difficult circumstances. Yes, I did say that, didn't I? Dealing with Raymond Hall can be difficult sometimes. That is service too.
That is
But,
service, absolutely.
what I'm saying to you is that service sometimes is not the easiest thing to do.
It's not.
Okay.
Sometimes
You have
it's
to have a heart
thankless.
for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we want to thank the work, the service, the life of Mr. Dick Gregory. We want to thank all of those times that he put work in and inspired so many people. And we're coming up to our last moment, so now it's down to 15 seconds. So, Mrs. Murphy, you got 10 seconds.
I just want to say, everybody get a plan, be prepared, let's save ourselves.
And
Art
vote.
and activism, yes,
And
and
vote.
vote.
And vote. And I like to say, I just want to say thank you for all of the people that supported me during the time that I was experiencing discomfort last weekend. I am here. I'm feeling better, and thanks a lot. Also, I want to say thank you to Mr. Hall and Mr. Murphy and the African American Healthy Families for coming to sit with us here on the panel. You can follow us at Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at theraymondhallshow.com, and we look forward to continuing this different conversation with you next time at 2 p.m. Thursday at theraymondhallshow.com. Thank you.
Hey, thank you all for listening in. This is Raymond Hall, and tell your friends about the show. Tell others that their service matters, okay? The might of the nation is her bombs and bullets and all of those things, but the strength of the nation is the service that's provided in her communities. So in the community of you, give service. In the heart of you, have a heart for doing something that enhances, builds, or makes better the life of someone else in the community. Remember, your job is for you, your service is for others. Thank you for listening in. This is the Raymond Hall Show. Have a good day.